Hello everybody, I hope you are going well. Today I'm going to tell you a story that ends almost well. Look closely until the end of the video to discover how it finishes. This time we share a story with Sailing Blackbird's friends, who have been giving me a huge helping hand. So don't hesitate to look at their YouTube channel, especially if you like traveling by catamaran. Before we start, let's talk for a second about our Tipeee page. Here you can support us by helping us to get the best underwater equipment to produce incredible quality videos. Click on the first link in our description and just follow the step. It's very simple. And thank you already for your generosity. Oh, and one more thing. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, eh? So, just click on the subscribe button and the bells and you will not miss our future videos. This way, we all come together to create an amazing community of sea lovers. Okay, now your homework is done. Let's go on with our story. After several windy days, I decided to go in my favorite bay to discover which surprises the waves had brought to me. So last time it was this dead fish who allowed me to encounter two incredible creatures. If you can remember, I talked about it in this video. It will appear just here. I entered the water and went directly to the right part of the reef. Here you can find a magnificent rocky reef, an ideal place for encountering octopuses and moray eels. When I reached the reef, I found a dreadful scene. A net covered the entire rock wall. It was about 25 meters long, or maybe even more. Such nets are called ghost nets. Even though these abandoned tools are not used anymore by fishermen, they pose nonetheless a terrible danger to sea creatures, from the dolphins to the small damselfish. Since they are made of nylon, they degrade very slowly into the water, and they can continue to capture and kill animals for as long as 50 years. They are even a danger for us humans if we don't have a knife. We can get tangled and risk death during a simple freediving or scuba diving session. So I decided to dive at about 15 meters deep to inspect the net and to see the extent of the damage. There were already a few dead fish. The majority were damselfish and wrasses. There was also a decomposed fish, and getting closer I understood it was a moray eel. It was completely disgusting. But close to it I saw a scorpionfish, and it was still alive. It was here, completely still, and was probably waiting for death to take it. I tried to get out the fish from the net, but when he saw me approaching it, it panicked and get stuck even more. It was completely heartbreaking, and I wanted to tell it, please, don't fret it like this, I'm here to help you. But unfortunately, I'm not able to communicate with fish yet. Luckily, after several attempts, it realized that I wasn't here to harm it, but to help it. So it remained where it was, watching me work with its small eyes. Even in a situation like that, we can learn lessons. Look. The first instinct of the fish was to categorize the arrival of the man as a mortal peril, which translated immediately into an attempted escape. Being forced to stay tangled where it was, it began to observe how the situation was, coming to the terms that I was here to help it. Of course, in nature, instinct is essential for survival of species, because a prey doesn't have the time to discern whether the animal approaching is there to eat it or not. On the other hand, we still rely on this filter even if our life is no longer at stake. And instead of observing, we act without thinking, and sometimes this incomprehension can lead to serious problems. But back to the story. With the fish still looking at me, I continued to work. The task was very delicate because it was very hard to manipulate around the animal because of its venomous spines. So I had to be extra careful to not touch them because they hurt a lot. In addition, I had to avoid getting tangled into the net myself. The one positive aspect is that I could move the fish anywhere without it panicking. It really put its life in my hands. After some time, I started to get a little bit desperate. It seemed I could not get anywhere. With a knife, it would have been much easier. Being out of ideas, but not wanting to leave my new companions die here, I tried to loosen the net with my bare hand, and thankfully it worked. I should have noticed sooner that the mesh was very thin, and therefore easy to tear off. Little by little, the fish managed to extricate from the deadly trap, and finally reached peacefully the bottom. Returning to the beach despite my victory, my heart was heavy. I knew that the net would continue to capture animals as long as it was hangs on the reef. But fear not, the next day I decided to remove it once for all with the help of my friend Guy from the Sailing Blackbird channel. It was not the ideal moment to complete the task. Indeed, it was in the middle of April, cold and rainy. But we agreed to go anyway because it was important for the life of the many marine animals. The plan was to detach the net from one side and then pull it out bit by bit. First, I did a general check to make sure there were no more other animals stuck. Still a couple of dead fish and a moray stuck inside her den. Luckily, it wasn't caught by the net, but it could not come out of his den because the net was obstructing the hole. I began to clear the gear while Guy was taking care of storing the net on our beautiful boat safety buoy. The beginning was quite laborious because the net was well hooked on the rocks and I had to avoid breaking the spirographs. With a knife, I meticulously cut around the tube of these worms so as not to break them when the net passed over them. You can check all the process on how we took off the net on the YouTube video of our friend Sailing Blackbird, just here. Eventually, we managed to carry the net back to the beach, and after an inspection, we realized that there were still live fish plus a crab. Unfortunately, when we released the fish, he was not able longer to swim. I stayed with him about 10 minutes to see if it will recover, but alas, it was doomed. His swim bladder must have exploded, so he was not longer able to swim or regulate its depth. It could only swim at the surface, the head upside down. With an infinite sadness, I left the fish to the whim of predators. Leaving the fish dying affected me particularly. The worst part was imagining such fate as the same of other millions caught by these giant trawlers. The very rapid rise of the nets caused the swim bladder to explode, while all the fish crush each other to a slow death by suffocation. It's truly depressing. Unfortunately, ghost nets are very common. As the name suggests, we can't see them because usually they are lost on the seabed. In 2009, they were estimated to 646,000 tons. It represented 10% of the total plastic in the oceans. So, imagine 11 years later. It's a huge sum. The good thing is that we can take action. If you happen to discover a ghost net, first of all, remember not to take unnecessary risks. These nets are really dangerous and often very heavy. The chance of getting tangled and share the same fate as our fish friends is very, very high. It is better to have at least one knife and some people to assist you. The best course of action is to contact dedicated organization and specify the net position. In the Mediterranean Sea, for instance, COSMED is one of the groups specialized in the area. We'll put the link to their page in the description. Otherwise, you can also contact Marine Natural Reserve or Harbour Master's Office. They certainly will be able to tell you what to do. More importantly, share what you learn in our videos as many people as possible. If more people are aware of this issue and know what to do, then we will have a bigger impact. Even so, removing a single net seems ridiculous in the scale of things, but it still counts as a victory. A net can capture up to thousands of animals during its life. So, imagine by taking part of the removal of this trap, we are contributing to saving the life of countless animals. So, if Matteo, I, you, and even you who are watching our videos with your phone do something that seems irrelevant, then our victories will get bigger and bigger and finally have visible effects. Thank you for staying with us. Sadly, the marine world shows not only beautiful views, but also harsher and terrible truths. And we believe it's important to show you the big picture. Don't forget to leave a thumbs up and to subscribe to the channel. It will help us to reach ever-growing results. See you the next week!